Today, Susan Grau shares about the beautiful near-death experience that she had as a child. She saw multiple places on the other side that I haven't heard anyone else describe before.
So I remember being about 3.5 years old, and I would watch animals float when they would cross. So I know somewhere inside of me, I had a connection to the spirit world. I just didn't understand it. And I think we all do, but I knew something was different. I just didn't know what I knew. And it was just my abnormally normal. At 4.5 years old, almost five, I was locked in an unplugged freezer in a garage. I was in there a very long time. And what happened was is I was playing with some boys, and they asked me if I wanted to play fort. And I did. I was little and I wanted to be part of. And they opened up the garage door, which we were not allowed in. We had a boat in there. And, in those days, people didn't usually park in their garages. They stuffed it full of things. And they told me if I got up and got popsicles for them, that they would let me play. And being as young as I was, I don't think I recognized that it was not plugged in. So I climbed up inside the freezer, and they closed the freezer door. And I thought I was in on a game. I was looking for popsicles, calling out flavors. And all of a sudden the door just latched. And I was facing inward, obviously, looking for trying to reach up actually. And because I couldn't see any. So I was trying to get up on the, top shelf. And there were no popsicles, and I heard that latch, and I thought, oh, I'm in a game, and this is going to shift. And then they surely wouldn't leave me in there, I think is what I was feeling, like, oh, I'm not stuck in here. And I had some fear, but it was minor. And then I heard the garage door go down, and I heard the thud, and I knew. And, it's really odd to me looking back, because I innately knew that I was in danger, real danger. And I don't know if I understood death, but I knew I was going to leave. I knew there was something really bad was going to happen. It wasn't just fear of the dark or any of those things, although it was pitch black. And I started screaming at the top of my lungs. My mother said she heard something that sounded like cats in heat. We had a lot of land, and the garage was separated from the house. And so she thought it was coming from that area. And I kept screaming and screaming. And so she didn't respond. She was in the back of the house, which was, the full other side of the property. And then I saw three lights, and I heard stop screaming. And I didn't. I kept screaming. I'm little. I'm not listening. I don't even know what I'm listening to. And then I heard one really powerful message from one of the lights, and it said, "Susie, stop screaming." And it was very, direct. And they said, "We're going to get your mommy, but first." And then I just heard this weird, I don't know how to explain it. It was like a melodic feeling, but I thought I was hearing it. And then I was at the bottom of a stairwell. And I looked up, and I thought, I need to get to the top of that. And I didn't know how to get up there, and I knew that. But the instant I thought it, I knew there was something about the center of this room. When I say up there, there was this room, and it had pillars and cracked and broken, but beautiful. And I call it, looking back, a Greco-Roman room. And it had an open ceiling, and there was open inside the room. There was this open, what I would call a circle, and I knew it was there. But I don't know how I knew. Excuse me, I couldn't see it. But the minute I thought that, I was there. Yeah. And I was on the edge of this well, what I called the well. And, I studied under Dr. Raymond Moody, and I said to him, I never saw the tunnel. How come everybody saw the tunnel but me? And I was really like, why did I not? I was really sad about that, because I thought, well, maybe it didn't, maybe I imagined it, who knows? And he said to me, did you ever think that the well was the tunnel? And I was in shock when he said it. I what? you know, and this was later in life. So I really believe that was the tunnel. It was very dark, but it had these movements in it. It looked like what I would say today. And everything I tell you is saying it as an adult. You know, I don't think I clearly understood it as a child. There were a few things I did, but not much. But I thought, you know, what is this movement? And it was moving like DNA. And I kept thinking, what is this? What is this? But I could hear words. And it sounded like what I would call as a little girl prayers. And it was things like, my mommy, you know, has cancer. Please don't let her die, God. And I'm going to turn 16. My dad won't get me a car. Please, God, please, please, please have got my daddy buy me a car. You know, things like that that I was hearing that were coming together as one consciousness. And I recognized that. It was all one. I don't know how to describe the recognition. It just, I knew that it was one consciousness, one thought, everyone was together is what it felt like to me. And I looked over at the lights that were on the left of me and my angels, and I asked them, where am I? And they said, you're in the room of heart's desires. And I was stunned by that. And I asked them, do you answer all those? And they said, no, Susie. Sometimes what people desire the most isn't good for them. And I remember feeling kind of a weird feeling, like something my mom would say to me, you know, just because you want it doesn't mean it's good for you. And I didn't like hearing that. And so I was me. I was definitely me, but I felt very etherical in nature. I didn't feel attached to a body, but I felt like I was in my body, but I didn't feel attached. And it's the only way I know how to describe it with human words. And the next thing I remember, and I remember looking around the room and it just had all these colors and what I would call crystally looking colors, almost like an effervescent look. And then I looked forward and I saw this road, and it had pavers, and it was golden or yellow. And I called it the Yellow Brick Road because I had seen The Wizard of Oz, and that made total sense to me. And so I called it the Yellow Brick Road. And I remember looking at it, and I saw pyramids in the very front of it. And I was watching what I thought were humans coming and pulling from the bottom of this pyramids. And as they were pulling, they were starting to pave a path. And I watched the pyramid kind of rock. It makes me think of Jenga now, you know, where you pull from the bottom and it gets unbalanced. And somehow I knew that was their life journey. I don't know what possessed me to understand that, but I knew that. And these humans were paving their path, that it was bumpy and crooked and out of whack completely. And I watched them. There were three. Everything came in threes for me, by the way. I don't know what that's about, but it did. And three angels, three paths. And I saw them drop to their knees and they were saying, for the love of God, please help me. And one of them was saying, nothing's happening. Nothing's going right. I'm going to lose everything. Please, please, you know, help me. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. And again, it went back to that asking for help, asking the spirit world to be part of our journey with us, and what we call prayers. And I watched these beautiful angelic beings, and the humans were just gone. And I watched these beautiful angelic beings come in, and remembering this is metaphorical. They speak in metaphors. Even when they speak to me now, it's in metaphors. And I watched them come in, and they started pulling the pavers off of this path, and they went to the bottom of the pyramid and they put the pavers back. And I watched them go to the top, and they would take a paver off, and it would recreate itself, as if our choices are always recreating, always more choices. That's how I viewed it. And then I watched them paving the path, and it was smooth. And I asked, what are you doing? And they said, we are the pavers, you are not. All you have to do is walk it. And I asked, how do you know if you're walking it right? And they said, we bless and block everything. Make no mistake. You can get through a block battered and bruised at breast, or you can shift. And if there's another block, shift again. And if there's another block, shift again, or wall. And before you know it, you'll see us paving your path. You think you know what's best for you. We know what's best for you. People ask me all the time, how could you remember this as a child? And I tell them, did you ever see The Wizard of Oz? And they go, yeah. And I go, were you a kid? Yeah. Do you remember the Yellow Brick Road? Yes. Do you remember the lion? Yes. Do you remember the Tin Man? Yes. Do you remember Dorothy and the ruby red slippers? Yes. Do you remember the witch? Yes. And I go, it had an impact on you, just like this had a profound impact on me. And I remembered it like I remember a cartoon or, anything I watched as a child that I loved and I was intrigued by. And that's what happens with us, things have an impact on us and we remember them. And this was so beautiful and wonderful and amazing, and it felt so real and so out of a box of what I understood, but everything I understood. I know the words seem like they don't match, but it's the only human words I have. And they said some more things to me that were quite profound that I didn't understand at all. I couldn't even connect those dots. And then I flashed into this room and it was beautiful. And I watched this families were lining up and they were, I don't want to say they were books, but they were, and it wasn't virtual because there was no such thing then, but in my mind, I didn't understand that. But I watched these pads of some sort come in front of these people, let's say books, I guess. And they were planning things that, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And this younger person was saying this. And I was when I was doing a podcast and explaining this, one of the person that was doing the podcast with me said, do you think that could have been you? And it was such an aha moment for me, like, whoa, because as you go through your journey, things that you don't understand when you're young, you make sense of when you're older. I don't care what it is. It could be human things. It can be spiritual things. And so I was starting to make sense of things. And when he said that to me, I thought maybe it was because she was saying, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that and I can handle it. And they were discouraging her. These angelic beings were discouraging her and saying, oh, that's an awful lot to do in one lifetime. Oh, I know I can do it. I can. And, you can spread that out basically. And she's, no, I can handle it. I know I can handle it. My soul's going to grow and it's going to expand so much. And there was so much innocence to that. And love. And then I heard people saying, and I'll come in during this time and help you with this. And they were making a plan. So I asked them, where am I? And they said, you're in the room of knowledge. And I asked them, what are they doing? And they said, they're planning their next incarnation. I had no idea what they meant, not a clue. It was totally foreign to me. But later on in life, someone said to me, and I was actually a teenager, do you believe in reincarnation, Susan? And I went, there's that word. And it was like it all came together. And that's how my whole life has been. And anyway, and then they were gone. Just poof. And that was it. And then I would watch another group come in. And they explained to me, that we plan things in our journey. And these things that we plan can be sometimes difficult and we have choices. But as this person or this being was arguing with the spirit world that I can do this, they said, well, you do have free will. And I just thought, what does that mean? Today, I always think, it makes so much sense to me now. We do have free will and we have doors we can open. And, maybe in one event, there's 5 doors and 5 different choices and the choices matter. And sometimes we make a choice and go, oh, this was not a good choice. And we back out of that door and go to the next one. And that is how our soul expands and grows, is by our choices and our free will. And then we had more conversation. And then I flashed into another room. And it was the room of companions. And it was beautiful, and it was animals. And there was every kind you could think of. And I call these rooms because I don't know how to explain it any other way, but they were places. They were separated. They were places in this beautiful vibrational energy and different vibrations, levels of vibrations. Each place had a different vibrational feeling. And I was actually out, I'll call it a room, but I was actually out in this beautiful field. And there were dandelions and daisies, and not like the kind we see here. They were, the colors and the sounds were so different, and the look of them. Everything pulsates. Everything is alive. It's like a beating heart. Everything. And I was sitting in this field, and there were animals everywhere, and I was appreciating it, and I was so happy. And I felt like I was in my body, but I don't think I was. And I felt this energy, and I looked to my left, and this is very emotional for me, but I looked to my left, and there was this mountain, and there was a beam of light on this beautiful mountain. And I wanted to get up that mountain so bad. I just wanted to be up that mountain, but I knew I couldn't. I was absolutely aware of that. And all of a sudden I felt this, I want to call it a beam of love, but it was more than that. It was all-encompassing love come towards me from this being. I was everything and I was nothing. I was perfect in every way. And it was love. Like, I think I spent my whole life trying to find that kind of love. It doesn't exist and on this planet. And then I just remember having a conversation, and beautiful, beautiful being of light. And it was just all encompassing. It was everywhere. And the animals reacted to it. And even the leaves reacted to it. Everything reacted to it in this beauty, immense beauty, immense everything, immense love. And my little soul was feeling it intensely. I felt so safe, so all-knowing at that moment, and so accepted and so perfect. And yet I was just a part of the whole. I was nothing. I personally was nothing. I was just a part of everything. It's indescribable. I hope that gives some description to people. And then I saw this, what I call the Cobblestone Cottage. And this beautiful angelic being came floating out of the cottage. And it was effervescent. It was like a rainbow, but not bright, but it had all those colors. And it was shining and pulsing. And I remember her coming out, and she was floating towards me. And all I could think of was, I want to float. I hope I get to float. Maybe I'm going to get to float. It's at that point, I think I was going back into my getting ready to be my humanness again or something. I don't know. It's what I felt. And I'm sure I was floating the whole time, but I didn't know that. I didn't feel that. I just was a part of the whole. And she said, it's time to go. And I didn't think much of anything. I didn't really know what she meant. And then I was next to this river, and we were walking or floating on this, I think we were floating on this beautiful path. And she was explaining things to me and telling me, that we go through the water. And I didn't understand that till I grew up, and I learned, about babies and, that they're in water, and, how important water is to us. Water is clear, like our clairs. I mean, it fits in so many areas. It cleanses us. And she was telling me that, it cleanses us. And I thought she was talking about, I was out in this field, so maybe I was dirty and they were bathing me, because she told me I was going back to my mom. So I thought they were going to clean me. I didn't know, what the water was for, but what it was for me to travel into where I needed to return into my body. And she asked me if I was ready to go. She explained to me that I was going to have a difficult journey, and that it would all be okay and make sense to me. at some point and I would help people. And I was scared when she said that. And so I wasn't sure I was ready to do anything. And then she told me I was going to see my mommy. And I have to tell you, during this whole time, I wanted to. There was a place there, and I don't always share it on my podcast, but I'm going to share this. I don't know why I feel compelled to. There was a place where there was this giant, I want to call it a crystal, but I don't know if it was. It was this giant see-through pyramid. You know, pyramid of 3 points. And we're back to the 3 again. And and by the way, my numbers are 3, which is so odd to me. You know, everything is 3, my birth chart. And so I was looking at this pyramid and I could see faces and what I thought were bodies in this moving inside of it. But I think they were on the other side of it. And I tried to reach my hand through it and I couldn't. And somehow I just innately knew if I could get through it, I wasn't coming back. I don't know what coming back meant, but I was going to stay there. And I knew that. I feel like that was the true crossing, like the forever, you know, until next time. In this life journey, I wouldn't be back if I got through. And so anyway, the next thing I knew, my mom said she heard 3 more times, "Your baby's in the freezer." I had seen my mom from up there, and I remember speaking to her, and I remember seeing her move like she could hear me, but not fully. And she said that she didn't trust her instincts. Now, she was medicated. She had the gift of mediumship, and they had taken my mom to an institution for a while, just a couple weeks, and my dad got her out, but they had her on Valium and other things. And so she wasn't listening to her intuition, but she finally heard it, you know, almost as she said, as a scream. My mom went out and the garage door was closed and she thought, "Susie can't open this." Now, this part of this story that I'm sharing with you, my mom shared with me. She's not here for me to ask. I remember it not as clearly as I wish I could, but what I believe I recall her saying to me is that she thought, "Susie can't open this. I'm going to turn around. There's no way she's in the freezer." And then something compelled her. So she opened up the garage door, went to the freezer and opened it, and I was in the freezer. She said she spun me around and I was ashen. And she ran to get a phone. You know, there were no garage door openers and there were no cell phones at that time. And she ran, dropped me, and I hit my chin and cracked it and took a breath. And she was going to call 911. So, or whatever they called then. I don't even know what they called the police department. And I, when I woke up from all of that, and I have to tell you, it took me a couple of days to be well enough to really like consciously know where everything that was going on around me. I could see spirits and I could hear them. They were mumbling. I didn't understand them, but I could hear them, and they were everywhere. And they were, I mean, literally in the corner of my room, looking in my window, under my bed, down my hallway. They were everywhere, and I was terrified. I didn't know they were safe. I didn't know who they were. I thought they were the boogeyman. I'd cover my head and say, "Go away, go away." And I spent probably, even in my young adulthood, sometimes I do it because I would get a little thrown by the sound and scare me. And they never harmed me. And so after a while, it just became my abnormally normal journey. I saw spirits and I played with them during the day in what my family called the creepy room, the living room, because I was always in there playing with spirits. And at night, I was scared until I wasn't.
I want to take a quick break to let you guys know that this video is a fundraiser for disaster relief for the LA wildfires. You can easily donate to the button on the side of the screen directly to the Los Angeles Fire Department, or you can check the description box for Susan Grau's recommended links. A GoFundMe link for the Wildlife Relief Fund 2025 And also a link to the ASPCA, which is assisting animals that have been affected by the wildfires. Susan is an animal lover, and this is really on her heart to help the animals in the area that are without assistance.
I first want to thank you for sharing the part about the pavers. I have to say, when I first heard your story, that stuck out to me, and it was exactly what I needed to hear. And just like you heard so many people praying and asking for help, why isn't this working? Why is nothing happening? I need help. I can't figure this out. That's where so many of us find ourselves stuck in our human journey. And the guidance that you were given to just walk the path and let them direct us. It's so simple that I think most of us just miss it because we're so busy trying to make it happen.
Yes. I think that's what we do, unfortunately, a lot of times when we're trying to manifest, is we're trying too hard to get what we want to receive. And then we go, well, I'm manifesting like I'm reading, I'm supposed to, and everyone's telling me to, and I'm still not getting it. What's going on? The manifesting is not about getting what you want. It's about changing your mindset so that your brain moves you in that direction, or your soul or your body moves you in that direction. Because when you believe something to be true, your whole being is moving in that direction. So if it's meant to be for you, they'll bring it because you're open to it. That's how I view manifesting. And I know other people believe it differently. I'm always on the opposite end of what other people believe. I'm always the one that goes, wait, this doesn't make sense. But it is so important. Manifesting is so important because it shifts the energy of your cellular level. But if it's not meant for you, it won't be there because it's their outcome, their way, their timing. And when I really accepted that, I was able to take a breath. And I don't always do it. I'm human. Sometimes I go, I need my book to be more, I need everything, I want all that too. And that's a good thing to have dreams and desires and want things to be wonderful. But I also get very quickly to that place of, I'm not in control here. I'm only in control of me and my next right step. And that's all I have to do. And on that path, all I have to do is take the next right step, whatever that is. It might be doing the dishes. It's kind of like when we're in grief. It is like when we're in grief. And people will call me and say, Susan, I can't get out of bed. I can't even get out of bed to go pee. I can't get out of bed. And I'll say, just, can you take one foot out from under the covers? Well, I can do that. Okay, call me when you do it. And they'll call me back and go, hey, I did it, but that's all I can do. And I'll go, can you take one leg and put it on the floor? Just one. Well, I can do that. And I walk them through until they've actually gotten out of bed. The goal is to take one step at a time. That is how we reach our goals and achieve what we want in our journey, because we're paying attention to what isn't good for us, because we're slowly moving through it. What we want to do is jump in with both feet. Just go for it. We hear that all the time. Just go for it. And I say, yes, go for it, but one step at a time, so that you're aware of what you're moving through. We want what we want, right? And, it's kind of like empaths are very gentle people in most areas. And we can get mad. We have brains, but we're gentle and we feel very deeply. And when we are in a situation that isn't healthy for us, say we open the door of a narcissistic relationship, and then we say we don't know how to get out. It's one step at a time. And it's a door, and we can open it. It's a door. People tell me, I don't know what to do. I say, go to the door and open it, make a change, do something different. Look outside of your box, your little room you've got yourself in. Just open the door. It's made for that. And maybe there's another door in front of you, and you open that. So we have choices we can make all along the way. We're never stuck. We are evolving. And people, say, I'm stuck, I'm stagnant. You have to release stagnant energy because you're actually evolving. Whenever I feel stuck, I know something's going to change and shift because I don't like that feeling. It's meant to be there, that feeling, so that we do change and shift.
I would like to ask you if there was any specific message from your near-death experience that stands out to you that you came back with.
Oh, there were so many. I think for me, it was understanding that I wasn't in control of everything, and I wanted to be. And even though I had the message, I must be honest and say, I spent most of my life trying to control everything because fear was in charge on this planet. And then I would remember, oh, you're not in control of everything, and the only thing you can control is you. The other message that I know was extremely powerful for me was that I needed to learn how to love me through everything, and that includes the dark. If I can embrace and love the darkest part of me, I can heal it. We want to hate those parts of us or deny those parts of us or push them away. And I learned through them that loving that part of me taught me how to move into it enough to move through it. So self-love was the ultimate goal of our soul journey. Because the more that we love, the higher we vibrate. And the higher we vibrate, especially self-love, the higher we vibrate, the closer we are to source and the goal.
I love how you're defining self-love as being able to accept the parts of ourselves that we typically judge and push away.
Well, it's easy to love the good parts of anything. That's the easy part, right? I mean, if I meet someone, I can love all the good stuff in them, but I have a hard time loving the things that aren't. So even outwardly, when I can say this person's right where they need to be, and I may have to remove myself from the situation, but that doesn't mean I have to hate. It just simply means I need to say, I no longer wish to be in this person's life. They're not healthy for me, but I don't have to hate them doing that. Loving the me in me is the most valuable thing I can do. And when I can do that, I can offer that to others. I can love the them and them.
What would you say is the purpose of these human lives?
I believe it's to grow and expand our souls even more. If you went to, let's say you went to law school and you took the bar and you became a lawyer, would you really understand the courtroom until you were in it, doing it? Would you really be a full-fledged lawyer till you stood in that courtroom and did law, or you did whatever that law was you were meant to do? No, you'd have the knowledge. And that's why they call practicing medicine and practicing law. You have the knowledge, you can practice it, but you're not really in it till you do it. And it's the same thing with life. So our souls read and learn and experience things on the other side, obviously, at a very slow pace. We don't grow as quickly as we do here because pain is our greatest motivator for growth. It doesn't mean our life is filled with pain. It's filled with joy also. It has to have balance. Everything has balance. But it doesn't always feel that way when we're in a dark place, but it does. Balance is created through that. But in order to grow, we have to experience, and our soul wants to experience. So we're here for the experiential part of it. So if I tell you all about the ocean, but you've never seen it, you won't really know the ocean. Even if you study it and look at pictures and watch it on a TV screen, you will never really know it until you put your feet in it and you taste the salt and you roll around in a wave and you feel the salt air and the coolness of the water, of the salt water, and how it sticks to your skin. You'll never know those things until you are experiencing it. You'll know them intellectually or in your heart space, but you won't know them as reality.
I really love the way that you explained that, because one of the most common questions that I hear, and probably you as well, is why do we have to suffer? Why does God allow suffering? But within the context of what you just described, you can't really know yourself as a loving being until you understand what love is in contrast to what love is not. Like if you've never had a chance to have to forgive someone or to be loving in the face of something that is not loving.
Yes. And, I always see all of our trials that we go through teach us how powerful we actually are, how much tenacity we have, that we can get through and survive anything. And I have to tell you, I have had to do that. Anyone who knows my story or has read my book or listened to a podcast knows that I have, 2 brothers and a mother that died by suicide. I was trafficked in my neighborhood as a child. I mean, there is a lot to my story that I don't even share. And I'm just beginning to allow myself to write about more of it now. But those things that occurred and happened to me showed me the strength of my spirit. So everything has balance. We just sometimes forget that. And so we go into that dark space of, my life is horrible and nothing will ever change, which is an untruth because things are changing at all times. The world and our journey is always in motion. And when we remember that, we know that something will change. When I see people who have lost their children, the trauma of that, and they tell me, I'm never going to be the same. They're right. They're not going to be the same. But if they allow themselves to move through and stay here through those circumstances, they find that they've learned something. They've gained something. Not that they'd want it to happen to gain it, but they have gained it. So spirit doesn't create bad things in our lives. It's not, people say, why did God allow this? And I say, God didn't allow it. Our human condition did, and our willingness to come here. What they do is they make good of it. In some way, you will be more because of it, not in spite of it.
A few minutes ago, you mentioned coming here to expand our souls. What does it mean to expand our soul?
Well, it's experience. I mean, I know for me, you could tell me about something, but until I experience it, I don't really understand it completely. Now, our souls are perfect, but they do evolve. Our soul is never damaged. People, they talk about, of the broken soul or the damaged soul or the dark night of the soul. Yes, there is a dark night that way. The soul feels things, but the soul is the vine to the divine. It is the one place we can go that has not been destroyed to get help. Because if my soul's destroyed and your soul's destroyed, and they created that soul, we have nowhere to go for healing. So they've taught me that our hearts can be broken. People die from broken hearts. That's very deep. Our minds can be broken. People leave the planet because of brokenness in their thinking. Our bodies can be broken. All of those things can, but the soul can feel the pain, but does not get damaged from the pain. So the soul learns through pain, and the soul learns through joy. Everything we experience here, the soul gets to learn. That's why there's balance. You go through these terrible experiences and then you have a baby and the joy is overwhelming and the love is so profound and you've gone through all of these things, but these things seem to be balanced with this beautiful experience. And that's how they've created our journey so that we can grow and learn and shift and grow and learn and shift through both joy and sorrow.
And my final question is, if you could give one message to everyone on the planet, what would it be?
I have to say that I always go back to the position that you are love. You don't have to worry about whether or not you'll be in the light when you leave. You are the light.
Susan is a certified counselor, grief specialist, professional medium, Reiki master, and hypnotherapist specializing in past life regression. You'll find her links in the description. You'll find my links to my paintings of the other side, Love Covered Life Sanctuary, my membership community in the description as well. Thank you for watching. Now go live your most extravagantly loving life.